Welcome back to Disturbed Reality. As many of you are aware, our community is made up of people from all over the globe, across all continents. Though, do you ever feel like law enforcement and the judiciary system, wherever you happen to be located, is not fit for purpose? Whether that be the authorities abusing powers and thriving off corruption, or on the other hand, lenient sentences being given to dangerous criminals that pose a significant risk to the public. Living in the UK, I know I certainly have some hang-ups in regards to the justice system, and I'm sure many of you feel the same, no matter where you're located. Though, as imperfect as our judiciary systems are, the alternatives can be even more depraved and savage. Lynch mob mentality has resulted in the brutal demise of many innocent people, whether it be the witch trials in 15th century England, where supposed witches were burned alive at the stake, or kangaroo court death sentences seen across the globe in various conflicts. As much as sometimes we malign our law enforcement authorities and judiciary systems, sometimes the alternatives can be much worse. But nevertheless, let's get into it. Number 1. The murder of Richard Carrillo. This particular case stems from Venezuela and is one of the most brutal prison stories that you will hear. Richard Carrillo, who was of Peruvian descent, relocated to Venezuela to pursue his career of being an artist. To be precise, he was a clay molder, creating pottery and sculptures. Richard was generally well liked by his community. However, in the early to mid-2000s, a serial killer and had been striking Richard's local area. It said up to 25 female college students in this time period were murdered, attacked, or Naturally, the local police force patrolled the area looking for the unknown assailant. On the 25th of November 2006, a police van patrolling the area looking for the attacker, containing 3 women who were killed by the unknown assailant. They were counting on the victims to identify the perpetrator. Due to the terrifying circumstance of a serial killer being on the loose, the police patrol caused commotion in the local community, with crowds surrounding the police van demanding answers. In the crowd was Richard Carrillo, who approached the police van to find out what was going on. At this moment, one of the women pointed at Richard to say he was the man who attacked her. Richard was then apprehended by police and faced prosecution. Richard would face trial and go to court. He was accused of the murder and rape of dozens of female college students. However, the reality was, the arrest of Richard was more so to appease the public in the panic that a serial killer was on the loose. They needed a suspect, and anybody would suffice. In court, Richard's friends and family would testify that he was a good man and wouldn't hurt anybody, though Richard's fate was sealed and he was sentenced to a life behind bars. Retrospectively, it turns out that the identification of Richard by one of the victims was either likely a case of mistaken identity, or the police took matters into their own hands. In fact, a weapon was planted on Richard upon his arrest. He was imprisoned at a penitentiary in Venezuela, and given the high-profile nature of his case, he was a marked man amongst his fellow inmates due to the severity of his alleged crimes. Upon entering prison, Richard was subjugated to horrific treatment by his fellow inmates. He was repeatedly raped and only a few days after being introduced to his hellish new surroundings, he was then brutally murdered by inmates. In the mid-2000s, a video was released online depicting the torment in which he went through. Although today, this can be considered a gore-lost media artifact, as allegedly, the video is now next to impossible to find, which is probably for the best. Richard was massacred by his cellmates. The video allegedly showed the rape and murder of Richard. He was stabbed several times by numerous inmates and at the same time. On video, the judge, jury and executioners, his cellmates, could be heard talking, explaining that this is justice. The video allegedly shows Richard trying to fight off his attackers, but due to the bloodshed, he could not get away as he was slipping on his own blood on the tiled floor and was eventually overpowered. Richard's body was later found by guards with several stab wounds and numerous signs of torture. His intestines were ripped out of his body and he was found with a knife in his rectum. Shortly after the brutal murder of Richard, killings on the outside continued to occur and they followed the same pattern as the alleged serial killer. As time passed, it became more and more apparent that Richard was not the serial killer but an innocent man. Subsequently, Richard's family have campaigned to clear his name of the crimes. From my research, it's unclear whether the actual serial killer has ever been caught. Number 2. Afghan stoning video. I'd like to thank one of my subscribers, Saeed, for pointing me in the direction of this particular case. Although there's not much backstory behind it, the frenzied nature of the Lynch mob type execution is extremely disturbing. The video itself wasn't originally uploaded to some sketchy gore website, but more so mainstream social media, Facebook to be exact. The grisly video is believed to be filmed in Afghanistan, and the perpetrators are believed to be of Pashtun descent, who are Afghanistan's largest ethnic group, and the language in the video sounds like Pashto. It's believed that the perpetrators in the video are militant Sunnis. The video is long, just over 7 minutes, and is arduous to watch. A man, who appears to be in his 20s, is surrounded by multiple villagers as he sits on the ground. A couple of men kneel next to him, talking to him as he looks agitated and distressed as the baying bloodthirsty mob look onwards. It's immediately apparent that the stage for a public execution has been set. The reason for the execution is unknown, and the background behind this video is sketchy, though one of the leading theories is that he was maybe executed for messing around with an unmarried girl, even though the stoning punishment can't be carried out unless strict conditions are observed, such as 4 witnesses seeing the actual penetration, and the actual stoning process is not usually carried out by random villagers, but more so well-respected members of the community, so it makes you wonder what this man allegedly did. The first minute of the video, you see the victim sitting on the ground and 2 men kneel next to him as they talk to him, then they remove his shirt. Once they are done speaking to him, they order him to stand up as they walk away, and the mob moves closer to him. Almost immediately, the large crowd, which looks to contain at least 50 people, start to throw stones at the man. After a few seconds, he falls to the ground and curls in a ball as he tries to protect himself. As the stones are continued to be thrown, the victim lets out audible wails of terror and pain, sounding like he is pleading for his life. The victim rises to his knees and is struck in the head by a large stone thrown by somebody in the crowd, which drops him. As the stones continue to fly, the victim keeps on trying to get on his knees, though he keeps on falling to the ground. Around 6 minutes into the video, the victim is struck in the head with 2 medium-sized stones, which appears to knock the victim out. The crowd then surrounds his unconscious body and throws stones from close range, pelting his body and head with jagged rocks, all while the crowd is chanting and shouting. The video cuts off after just over 7 minutes, with the crowd still throwing stones. It is safe to assume that the victim passed away after his long and torturous ordeal. The video is extremely distressing. Between the bloodthirsty chants of the crowd and the cries of pain and terror from the victim, it will be one that you will not forget. Number 3. African machete murder. Much like the second entry on this list, the context behind this video isn't detailed. What is known is that the video was filmed in Shinyalu in Kenya, and it depicts the brutal murder of an unknown man by Francis Musée Leseshe, who thankfully was arrested shortly after the grisly video was released. Allegedly, the reason behind this heinous act of violence was that the victim in the video allegedly stole a chicken from a fellow local. The victim in the video later passed away due to blood loss and shock. The video itself is relatively short, at 1.5 minutes long, but it's extremely bloody and brutal. The video opens up with a bloody man sitting on the ground with his attacker standing over him carrying a panga, which is a type of machete. A crowd is gathered in the distance, watching the brutality ensue. The man carrying the machete strikes the victim numerous times, hitting his limbs as he tries to protect himself, to no avail. As the victim flails around, trying to protect himself, you see the full extent of his injuries. Sitting in a big pool of blood, the victim's limbs, although not severed, are hanging by flesh as he has suffered numerous bone breaks due to the machete. The victim lets out harrowing screams intermittently as he is being struck with the blade. People can also be heard crying and screaming in the crowd. The worst part of the video is towards the end, when the victim tries to raise his feet to protect himself, but he is then struck in the knees with a machete, which causes him to let out a blood-curdling scream. The victim was fully conscious throughout the video and felt every single blow from the machete. The nature of the murder can only be described as frenzied, with the attacker repeatedly striking the man without stopping. The video is extremely disturbing and graphic, and in covering such content for this channel, it really does take a lot to truly shock me, but this one certainly did get to me. The sad truth is, it's more than likely that the victim in the video was poverty-stricken and desperate, though, through his desperation for survival, in a twisted fate of irony, it cost him his life. There is not that much more backstory to discuss in regards to this video, but its brutality is truly shocking. Here's hoping that the perpetrator never sees the light of day again. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, if you can enjoy this sort of content. I appreciate that this video topic was a little bit different, but I wanted to switch things up and try something new basically, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below. I have a few ideas for different topics on this channel, but of course I will keep your feedback in mind. As always guys, thank you very much for the support. As of when I record this video, we are nearly at 270,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. Also, feel free to follow my other socials. I have a Twitter account and also a boxing YouTube channel, which of course will be in the pinned comment. But as always guys, thank you for the support, and as always, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.